I want to give my take on Battle Angel, the trailer that recently came out. I feel very positive about this, about Battle Angel based on this trailer. Now, Battle Angel is based on a graphic novel. Well, in Japan, they call them mangas by an author named Yukito Kishiro. It came out like in 1998, and it was followed by this OVA, which came out, I believe, probably 99. It's about a cyborg, a young lady by the name of Alita. She is part of this pile of rubbish that came from this floating city called Tiphares, and her head is found by this doctor. Over the course of her story, she is in search of who she is because she has no recollection of her past whatsoever, except through this martial arts combat style called Panzer Kunzt. And it's a coming of age story. It's a romantic story, and it's an action story. So it has all of those elements that James Cameron is known for having in all of his films, that universal appeal that can bring women as well as men to the film. And I liked it. I mean, seeing the trailer, I had no problem with the big eyes. It's a cyborg, so of course she's not going to look like her human counterparts. And I like the fact that she doesn't look like her human counterparts in the film. And, comparing the, just the few elements that I saw in the trailer to the manga and the OVA, it's about as faithful an adaptation just based on this 2 minutes that I have ever seen. When you look at her, she doesn't look Asian. She doesn't look Western. I mean, she looks alien, but she looks just like a live action anime character. And I really appreciated that about Alita in this trailer, the fact that it just looks just so faithful to the source material. And also, I was very pleased that James Cameron selected Rodriguez to direct this film. I think Rodriguez is a very good director from the films that I have seen of his, from Dusk to Dawn to Once Upon a Time in Mexico to Sin City. I think he's a very good director. He puts me in the mind of Tarantino. As a matter of fact, when he and Tarantino did Grindhouse together, if you didn't tell me, who directed which, I would have never known because their styles look very similar. As a matter of fact, in that particular film, those two Grindhouse films, I prefer Rodriguez's over Tarantino's. Tarantino's was very good, especially the car chase scenes. But Rodriguez, I just liked the edginess of it a little bit more, And I think that his choice was the perfect choice. The only three directors I would have selected over him are Ang Lee, Tarantino, and Terry Gilliam would have been the best director for Battle Angel, I think, because of the retro technology that's in the manga and that's in the OVA. The retro tech that's in it, I think, would have been more up Terry Gilliam's alley. I think he could have done that would have been something to get Terry Gilliam, but we got the next best thing, Rodriguez. Rodriguez is very good. I like him. Rodriguez reminds me a little of Sergio Leone, in the way that he's more or less like a rebel. He's kind of like on that. He's always been like kind of like on the outside. He's not what you would call a mainstream director. He doesn't direct mainstream. His movies are just edgy enough to keep him out of the mainstream. you know. But at the same time, even when with Machete, you know, you can see that there's a good director there. There's a very, very good director there. It was just the material that he worked with. And plus, I don't think that he can go wrong with this being up under Cameron because Cameron co-wrote the script. And as you can remember, the last time that Cameron co-wrote a script of a big movie was Rambo back in 1985, directed by George P. Cosmatos. And if you look at that film, if nobody told you who directed, you would say James Cameron directed this film. I mean, that film had James Cameron's DNA all through it. This film will be the same way. I think that James Cameron would temper Rodriguez in much the same way as Kirk Douglas producing Spartacus tempered Stanley Kubrick. Even though I'm not going to compare Rodriguez with Stanley Kubrick, you know what I mean. I came across the manga after I got the tape. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. I came across the tape first, and it was like a blind selection. I just picked it up off of a shelf. There were two stores down here called Suncoast and Saturday Matinee, and they were in a mall that's no longer open. And at that time, the tapes were the big thing. CDs were just coming in. And people weren't, parting with their VHS, and I wasn't either. And 90% of the inventory of these stores were VHS, and they were all most of the big titles were displayed out like this. And I just picked it up and I looked at the cover. I said, "Oh, that looks cool." And I looked at the back and I read the synopsis, and I went home and looked at it, and I was blown away. I mean, and I was kind of mad, upset by the fact that it's only about 40 minutes long, and they never had a follow-up to it. And one day I just happened to be in a bookstore called the Library Limited that used to be out here. It's also gone, Amazon. And I came across the manga, and I said, "Wow!" I said, "Look, Battle Angel." In the anime, her name is Gundam. In the manga, her name is Alita. And I picked it up, and what made me buy it was when I opened it up and I saw the artwork. I mean, it took me 6 months after buying the books to actually read them, because for 6 months you would just look at the artwork. I mean, incredible. Between Katsuhiro Otomo and Yukito Kishiro, I would say they're up here, and I don't know. I think Yukito Kishiro is a little bit better because Katsuhiro Otomo, his characters tend to look more generic. And that would probably be the only edge I would give Yukito. But the artwork is just killer. And then I read the story, and I mean, it was like reading a great piece of literature. I mean, it was not unlike reading the Aeneid by Virgil or Paradise Lost by Milton. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I was so excited reading it, and then come to find out James Cameron had purchased it, and he was going to make that film, and he was going to make another film to prepare the technology for Battle Angel. I said, "Oh man!" I said, "Whoa!" I was happy as hell. I hadn't been that happy since news came out that James Cameron was going to direct Spider-Man. I said, "Whoa!" Imagine how Spider-Man would have looked if James Cameron would have done it. But then Avatar came out and made $2 billion. I said, "Oh man!" I knew Battle Angel wasn't going to get made then. It could have still, because Avatar, who'd heard of it before James Cameron said he was going to make that film? I mean, who even knew the actors? Who knew Sam Worthington? Who knew Zoe Saldana? Nobody knew these people before he made the film. You don't go to a James Cameron film for the actors. You go there for James Cameron because of the magic he has. He's in that rare class of directors who knows how to create magic, and you go to see the magic, just like you would go to a Michael Jackson concert. There are very few people anywhere that, in their respective areas of expertise that can pull off magic. And James Cameron is just one of those people. So after he did Avatar, he still could have went back and made Battle Angel. But then when he came out and said, "Oh, okay, well, we're going to make two, we're going to make three more movies," I said, "Oh, that's it." I said, he's got to be about 60 now. So it takes him about 13 years. If you look at his films, I think the 90s were probably his most prolific decade. He had three films that come out in that decade. 92, I believe, with what was that? 91, I believe that was T2. And then you had 94, 95, True Lies. And then I think 96, 97, Titanic. So that was his most prolific decade. After Titanic, you had 14 years before Avatar. So James Cameron takes his time on making movies. So I figured that he's not going to live long enough to get to finish Avatar to get around to Battle Angel. So I was happy as hell to hear that he had sold the property, that he didn't sell the property, but that he was going to allow, he was going to produce the film, and he was going to allow Robert Rodriguez to direct the film. And Robert Rodriguez is not just any director. I wasn't happy to just see this film made. The director would have killed it for me. I mean, if you would have got somebody like Zack Snyder to direct this film, I would have automatically slammed it. Oh man, he's gonna screw this up like he screwed up Batman. And people forgot how low in the dumps Batman was before Christopher Nolan resuscitated it and legitimized it again. And I said, "Oh wow, they're gonna go the same route as Batman and give this to a action director." But they gave it to an action director, but a guy who can also direct, and a guy who has style and somewhat of an outsider. If you look at the manga, if you read the manga and the tone of the manga, and the anime doesn't really have the tone that the manga has. The manga is kind of crazy, man. I mean, the manga is real crazy. I mean, you have to have a guy who's kind of like an outsider to really bring that out of it. Like I said, the only three directors that I had ahead of Rodriguez were Ang Lee, Quentin Tarantino, and especially Terry Gilliam. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, whew, boy, that's a wet dream right there. Terry Gilliam directing Battle Angel, but Rodriguez, I'm good with that. I love the look of this movie. I think that it's going to, if he, and I'm pretty sure under Cameron that he is going to emphasize the romantic aspect of the story, as well as the action, because from what I saw in the trailer, it's basically the first episode or the first book in Battle Angel. I've heard rumors that they're going to kind of mix that with the Motorball series, which was the best part of the manga. The best part of the manga was the Motorballers. I've heard that they were going to kind of like cross-pollinate the first book with the middle books, which would be the Motorballers. I haven't seen that. I didn't see that in the trailer. I just saw the first episode of the manga and also the OVA. But I think it's going to be pretty good. I think that if he can get into the story, into the relationship between Alita and the young man in the film who is a hustler. He's like a street hustler who's trying to hustle up enough money to go to Tiphares, which is that big city that's suspended above I guess they call it Iron City in Battle Angel. If they can emphasize and bring out that relationship, I think that this is going to be something that is going to take Hollywood in a different direction than it's in now, because right now it's about Marvel and DC, mainly Marvel now. Marvel's got a big edge on DC, right, since Christopher Nolan left DC. I think it's going to kind of go into a different direction where, you know, they're going to start mining anime. I don't know if some of the anime would translate into, you know, a live action movie. I don't know if Akira would. Akira doesn't seem like. I think that maybe if Akira was made 15 years ago, I think it would have. But the I think that the appeal of Akira is not the tech so much as it is the level of detail in the animation at that time. The only the only animation that you were going to find that kind of detail in came out of Disney. And I think that that's the thing about Akira that really made Akira really, you know, kickstart anime. But I don't know if the story is good enough to really translate into a big screen movie and success. But I think that Alita, based on that trailer, is going to be something that I'm definitely going to go and see. I expect big things out of it. I don't think that there should be a whole lot to worry about. I will be worried if James Cameron did not produce this movie. He co-wrote it, you know. So I think that it's going to be pretty good. I'm going to go and see it. I would appreciate if you would like this video and leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. And I thank you for watching this video.